The following is a list of Moors who have been kidnapped and are being held for a demand of income. The demand of income is being made against the family as well as through fraudulent submissions of documents alleging that they are caring for the people in some sort of long-term care fashion. These Moors have been kidnapped literally off the street by employees of various corporations that are guised as counties, cities, towns, township, boroughs. These names that we have all been mentally conditioned to believe are government are not. They are exactly what they say they are. They are municipal corporations, and as such, they, if you do the research, you will find that they are foreign corporations on American soil. Therefore, they do not have standing nor jurisdiction to make a demand of income or even bring a claim against the Aboriginal indigenous people or any people on American soil, this making their actions criminal. However, as Moors, we must bring these crimes to the forefront via civil complaints against these unalienable constitutional treaty-secured rights of the people, Aboriginal indigenous Moors of this land. If the municipal corporation has been provided, then we reference that along with the union state. If we don't have the municipal corporation where the employee works that actually did the kidnapping, then we just reference the union state that is bound and obligated to protect the people from foreign and domestic invasion. This list comprises Moors who have been kidnapped and are being held hostage by employees of various corporations on American soil, which is a violation of the American Constitution 1791, and it is a treaty violation, being that we are talking about Moorish Americans, Aboriginal indigenous to this land, who have been kidnapped by employees of foreign corporation on American soil. This making this an international issue because you have two nations with one nation warring against another. Therefore, this is an international issue. If you have a family member near or far within your immediate family or one of the family that you know and you would like them added to this list, please send an email to mhhseyeswideopen@gmail.com. In the subject line, put kidnap more, and please provide us with their free national appellation, the municipal corporation that the employee is operating through that kidnapped them, along with the union state that this corporation is in purview to. We start off with our sister, Abka Ray Bay, kidnapped through a joint venture between Memphis and Shelby Corporation under the purview of Tennessee, Daoud Ill under the purview of Arkansas, Amir Muslimin Ill, Kusu Ra Kush Bey under the purview of Missouri, Asar Patah Amen Ra Bey under the purview of Ohio, Jeremy Paler Ill, Terry Thorne Bay, J. McCall Brooks Bay, Joseph Kanaday Ill, Kush Amir Bunch Ill, Emmanuel Billings Bay, Yassin Khalik Alamin Ill, Michael Curry Bay, all under the purview of North Carolina, Noble Crisco Ill under the purview of New Jersey, Messiah Aziz Ill and Crystal Ill, both kidnapped through a joint venture between Mercer, Freehold, and Trenton Corporation under the purview of New Jersey. Still waiting on an update regarding baby Patricia, or the baby of Patricia Bay, kidnapped by the Atlantic Corporation under the purview of New Jersey. Eldridge Tyrone Fisher Ill and Marty Sivion Ill under the purview of Indiana, Solomon Ill Bay and Mumi Abu Bay under the purview of Texas, William Barrett Ill under the purview of Virginia, Che Ray Bay under the purview of West Virginia, Thomas Lee Bay under the purview of California, Victor Eduardo Avalle Juarez Ill, kidnapped by Harlem Corporation under the purview of Georgia, Natural Tohudi Ill, kidnapped by Benner Corporation under the purview of Pennsylvania, Brian George Mills Bay, kidnapped by Blades Corporation under the purview of Florida, Judah Ill and Anwar Ill, kidnapped by Philadelphia Corporation under the purview of Pennsylvania, Ramor Ill, Amada Ill, both kidnapped by Chester Corporation under the purview of Pennsylvania, Iman Ill, kidnapped by Lynchburg Corporation under the purview of Virginia, and Khalid Albert Ill, kidnapped by Las Vegas Corporation under the purview of Nevada. Thank you very much.
All right. Islam, and welcome to MHHS, Eyes Wide Open. This is your host, Anita L., along with my co-host, Ms. Ryan Alice L.
Peace and E. Peace and love more to everybody. Great to be back on tonight. How are you? All right.
All right. Rosmariah Bay.
Islam, peace and love to all.
And Sujo Adwa L.
Peace and love, more Islam.
Islam. Right. Peace and love. Islam. All right. First, before we get started, I want to send a big shout-out to family listening near the corporate construct known as Great Britain, Islam, to the Moors over there listening. Listening right now at 2 o'clock in the morning. Peace and love to you. Islam, to the Moors listening near the corporate construct known as South Africa, Japan, the Netherlands, Islam, Brother Bissat. We got some Moors over near France. We have some Moors over near France, corporations listening. Islam, to the Moors over there. The Philippines, Bangladesh, Islam, Moors near the Panama Corporation, Trinidad, Barbados, Jamaica, and big shout out to the Moors near that Puerto Rican corporation that just declared bankruptcy. Islam. Looks like y'all gonna get the land back.
Since Puerto Rico was
Moors, Islam,
bankrupt.
Moors, near Mexico Corporation, Venezuela, Brazil, Cuba, and let's see, some more we have yet to connect with. Peace and love to you, and thank you for joining. To our callers, thank you so much for calling in every week and filling up the phone lines before the broadcast even begins. Islam, and thank you to you. The chat room is open for anyone who'd like to get up in there and have conversation relative to the subject of class, or maybe, put information up there if somebody's needing references. Because, that chat room is not for gossip. It's an educational tool in conjunction with the broadcast as well. Tomorrow is the second Wednesday of the month, and let's see, we will be there live in the flesh for class. So make sure and check us out. Doors open at 6:30. Class begins at 7:30. And if you're not in the area and can't make the class, you can listen by calling this number because the classes are broadcast over this MHHS Eyes Wide Open channel. All right, so I think that is it for announcements. Yes. All right, so today's is entitled Go Back to the Mindset of Our Foremothers and Forefathers. What exactly is Prophet Noble Jew Ali telling us? You know, a lot of times we get this information, we zoom through reading the little booklets, although those booklets are little. Really, if you're really reading and studying that, as little as those booklets are, there really should be taking you some time to go through. If you're truly studying, you ought to be looking up every single word, you know, because don't assume that you know words, because I've been using words a long time, and I'm finding that a lot of words that we have used, we really don't comprehend what they truly mean, which works against us. So don't take those little booklets for granted. So because, you know, we read the prophecies and statements and the Moorish guide, and we go through it, we really might be missing what exactly is Prophet Noble Jew telling us. And it's not that he's trying to. He is telling you. You just got to slow down so that you can comprehend it. Because we have to ask ourselves, given what is going on around the world today, telling us to chase down commercial processes, do you think that's what Prophet Noble Jew is telling us? There's a whole lot of people, boys, chasing down commercial processes. All right? Is he telling us to grab hold of various instruments, such as the birth certificates, driving instruments, social security cards, and do something with those worthless pieces of paper? Is he telling us to classify ourselves using corporate codes while at the same time alleging we're nationals of Morocco? Morocco and America is synonymous, so you got to know that. Do you think that's what he's telling us? To know what you are telling us. In conjunction with telling us to go back to the mindset of our ancestors, he also told us to study, study, study. Why? Because he knew without study we would be susceptible to all manner of things that move you away from heritage, birthright, nationality, the Moroccan American Constitution, 1791. And if you haven't figured it out, this is a game for foreign entities. I do not mean corporate construct. I mean foreign entities. This is a game for foreign entities. And the game is to capture the mind of the people, not through force, but through trickery, resulting in you putting yourself back into slavery. So study, 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 because the prophet said some of your own wearing turbans intentionally or unintentionally through lack of study will put you right back in slavery. Now, I said all of that to say, basically, to go back to the title of this broadcast, which is Go Back to the Mindset of Our Foremothers and Forefathers, our ancestors. You know, a lot of times we hear that, and I believe, or I feel, that we we gloss over that when that's such a powerful statement. We go back, if we take our minds back, we're also taking ourselves back. What were we doing? We were well written. We were well studied. All right? We wrote beautifully, eloquently. We didn't scribble anything like we're trying to hide who we are. We were bold with who we are because we were clear on it. Hence, if you don't do nothing, be clear. Be clear on your nationality so you can be bold like your ancestors, your foremothers, and your forefathers. He said, go back to the mindset of your foremothers and forefathers. If we go back and not long, do you really think that our ancestors would have fallen for these many and various commercial processes that are being bandied about by our own brethren and sistren? Do you think we would have fallen for them? Nope. Not. Because we were studied. Because we were studied, seriously studied, no one could trip us up. We couldn't fall for things that was doing nothing more than putting us right back in slavery. You think that, now, I'm going to say this, but you have to think about it. Because do you think we would have fallen for the illusion of an enslavement by a worthless piece of paper called a birth certificate, driver's instrument, social security card, or whatever they came up with? Whatever they came up with or will come up with, passport. Do you think our ancestors would have fallen for if we're well studied and we go back to the mindset of our ancestors, do you think even if we found ourselves in a situation where these instruments were created, given our mindset and our love of study, do you think we would have stayed there long? Nope. Which brings us to these municipal corporations on Moroccan American soil. Our ancestors knew that they were simply corporations likened to your Walmart. Because of that, because we were studied, because we knew law, and because we could back it up and go toe-to-toe with anyone using the law and only the law. We didn't have to worry about being enslaved to a corporation. Didn't matter if a corporation was now going by the name of county, city, town, township, or borough. Go into any one of these municipal corporations, their records. Go way back to the 15th, 14th, and 15th, and 16th century. Can get in and look at any document and see if we was doing then what many Moors is doing today. The Moors on this American soil, we wasn't up in these places because they were not ours. It wasn't ours. I'll tell you who was up in those county, city, town, township, borough offices. The Moors from foreign lands who came over here and set up shop. And in those buildings, they tallied their product or their goods. But most of them were not indigenous, aboriginal, indigenous to this land. And you know what? They don't try to hide it. They don't try to hide it at all. You can go on the World Wide Web. They put their history of how every single corporation on Moroccan American soil got started. And if you do your studies and your research, you can find their charters. They're chartered from either the Great Britain Corporation, the French Corporation, the Portuguese Corporation, Spanish Corporation, or the Roman/Italian Corporation. They ain't even hiding it. So if we are truly going back to the mindset of our foremothers and forefathers, and we're doing the appropriate study, why are Moors going into a municipal corporation to have lawful notice, lawful documents recorded? Why? That's like I sit down and I write a most powerful document regarding a situation, or you don't have to continuously write documents regarding your status. Once is enough. Everything else supports your heart. But it can only come out your heart if you study it and know. Islam, that's how it goes. It's supposed to be studied from an intellectual perspective, mental, to the point where it drops down into your heart and it becomes a part of you. Now nobody can take it away. If you have an issue. Islam?
I have a question. Islam. I don't know if I missed something, but what are they filing at the municipal?
Anything. And this is how we would respond in any situation. If somebody injured you, the appropriate and lawful action is to file a civil suit. If somebody injures me, what am I going to have a conversation with them about? They injured me. And a violation of a liberty is an injury. I am never going to waste my time having a conversation with the people who have injured me, trying to convince them, number one, that they injured me, and number two, to leave me alone, and number three, I need to be compensated for the injury you caused. Why would they listen? They know not to take people serious unless they make a lawful public record. And the only way that you can make a lawful public record is if you file a civil suit. And if it's a constitutional violation, that's automatically federal.
So you're saying the constitutional violation is the lien against them and is the injury against you. So we are the injured parties by those means. And, yeah.
In any venue, like if I have family members. It's so funny. I didn't get it then, but I get it now. I have so many family members who would sue at the drop of a pin, a feather, whatever, a hat. I used to think they were sue happy. Really, I did. I used to call them sue happy people. But I get it now. You always sue if you feel someone has injured you, because that's law. You don't sit and have a conversation with them. You don't go visit them as though you're friends. And when I say visit, this is how I interpret visit. And I'm not trying to jump on anybody. I'm just saying, listen, think about it. I would never go and physically drop off a document if I can help it to any of these municipal corporations out there. I will put a stamp on it and let the federal mail system do the work for me. Because if I have time to go down there and drop it off, which equates to a visit, then I am not studying.
But that's not the real reason. The real reason is because it's lawful to put it in the mail.
It's lawful.
Also,
you put a stamp on it and have the full force of the federal law behind you.
Through the mail system.
They know about that force. That's why they rarely, if ever, send anything through the mail, because everything they send is a threat. And if they send a threat through the mail, that's mail fraud automatically.
Right.
I learned believe it or not, I learned this from the movie The Firm. I had to go look it up. In that movie, he kind of lets you know that if you make a demand for any income or finance, and there is no foundation to substantiate the demand of income, that's mail fraud for each occurrence. That's why these municipal corporations don't be trying to send nothing to nobody. They will tell you, come back here on such and such a date. Mm-hmm. They don't never give you no piece of paper. They don't say, we'll send it to you in the mail. Because that's mail fraud.
Well, they will send appearances in the mail. But that's after you've already made an appearance and they assume that you are accepting their jurisdiction.
But even the document that is saying come back, see, up where I am, they don't do that. They try to send as little through the mail as possible. But even what they do send is mail fraud because it's a demand. If you study that paper, when you look at it, it looks like, oh, well, I'm just going to come down there and whatever. But if you really do the studying of it, they be telling you a whole lot. Yeah. But you have to.
You there? Uh-oh. Are you there? I don't know what just happened. But
Am I back?
Yes, you are now.
Oh,
all right.
Okay. I don't even know what happened. I don't know what happened. But anyway, as I was saying, this is mail fraud. But really, I mean, that's just a piece of it. What I'm really and truly trying to get people to comprehend is you're always dealing with a corporation. They call themselves a municipal corporation. Municipal and corporation, that's like saying corporation. Because if you look at the definition of municipal, it says it's a corporation. It's like redundant. It's like Moroccan American. It's redundant. It's the same thing. Right? But the point is, it's a corporation. And the prophet said, go back to the mindset of your ancestors, your foremothers and your forefathers. Because if you go back to their mindset, the way they used to think, the way they used to get down, you're going to find that they were masters of law, not masters of processes, not masters of birth certificate, redemption, whatever that is. They were masters of law. And because they were masters of law through study, couldn't nobody trip them up. And that's why you have modern Europeans out there who say, I'll talk about the Moors once I get a better legal team. They know. And
they don't say that anymore.
Well, I'm saying we need to make that
Oh, no,
true.
but you're right. It's just that so many Moors have come incorrect, you know,
Yes.
that they're like, we still got a feeding ground, and that's what's happening.
Exactly. When you're given information, now you may not like what is said, but the reason you don't like what is said is probably the main reason you should study the heck out of it. Because when your emotions come up about information that is being given, that's the universe way of saying you need to pay attention. We need to be about the same type of business that our ancestors, our foremothers, and our forefathers was all about, and that was study. They studied. If you look back at the history that you can find about Moors, and there's a lot of history out there, they just color the history people pale. But if you look at the history, yeah, we had some Moors that was off the chain. But almost everything that they did was done based on the law. And these modern Europeans, believe it or not, they're doing things based on the law, assumption of law, because they know, number one, that they have thoroughly miseducated us. Thoroughly. Number two, they know that they have thoroughly discouraged us about study. That's number two. So now that brings us to number three. They know that they can push the envelope right over the cliff when it comes to violating the liberty of the Moors, branded Negro, colored, black, because they believe that we're going to continue to not be the studiers that our ancestors, our foremothers and forefathers were. This is what they believe. But I'm going to tell you that there is a wind blowing right now. People need to go and read the prophecies and the statements right now, because many of the prophecies have been fulfilled. Many right under your nose, and you don't even know it has happened. And what that means is you need to check yourself. Stop worrying about everybody else. Are you prepared? Everybody is worrying about everybody else, but are you prepared? Because there is a wind blowing, and it is blowing out all the cobwebs. It's blowing all the crap off of the table. Things are being said in the public that has never been said before. Never. You got Moors today who are demonstrating like neon signs. I ain't studying. That's why they run around talking about, I need a passport, or they're a vessel. I guess you do need a passport if you're a vessel. I guess you do need a passport if you're going to travel to Puerto Rico. Don't know Puerto Rico is a corporation, even though they put it on the front page of the New York Times. Puerto Rico, municipal corporation. going bankrupt. They said it. I've been saying it for years. They put it right on the newspaper. So now here is what studies more ought to be looking at. If Puerto Rico is a corporation, I ain't never been to Puerto Rico because Puerto Rico is not the land. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And the brother, I hate to call him most deaf. I think he was Yusuf. Yeah. Something with a Y, Bay. I can't remember if it was Yusuf or something. But his, what was it?
Yassin Bey.
Yassin Bey. Yassin Bey. Let me tell you something. I know this went over many more's heads, even his. Because Trump can't come back to South Africa for 5 years. South Africa was a corporation. He ain't never been to South Africa. South Africa said that not too long ago. Today we got Puerto Rico saying municipal corporation. That means that Puerto Rico is a corporation, the United States of America is a corporation. You know that, right? But everybody's, oh, they're a corporation. Really? So if you know they're a corporation, why are you asking them for a passport? Why are you trying to create a passport within your national government when you are not a corporation? Moors is not a corporation. Moorish is not a corporation. I don't care that you got some Moors out there who done made a Moorish Incorporated, whatever, Moorish Nation Incorporated. I don't care, because that's false. In law, it's not the land. I'm going to the land. I ain't going to no corporation. But the reason that we need to pay close attention to that is because it substantiates the fact that all these people who've been feeding you this lie that says the county, city, township, and borough, the state, the Fed, that they're government. No, they're not. They are a corporation. We got so much case law to substantiate that. You don't even need a case law to substantiate that. That's all you got to do is study. They ain't trying to hide it. The whole purpose of the Constitution was to protect the people from infringement of their unalienable, inalienable liberty by corporations. And when you study the definition of liberty, you will find it's vast. It's vast. And then when you look at some of the discussions that was made around the Constitution, it said they said we didn't want to nickel and dime and try to document every area of the people's lives with the law. Needless to say, the 9th and 10th Amendment was sufficient. It said if it ain't in here, it's reserved to the state and the people. Now, if you do your studies, then you know that the state can't exist unless there is people. So it's got to be those people who come together to form a state, as well as those people who choose not to. Constitution protects everybody. But if we don't go back to the mindset of our foremothers and forefathers and ponder and contemplate and take the necessary time to ponder and contemplate, we're going to all get swept away on that wind that's blowing through right now. Because if you haven't figured it out, like I said, this is a game for those foreign entities. And the game is what? The game is to capture the minds of the people. And the minds of the people, when you talk to some of them, have been successfully captured. Even some declared more. The prophet said that we strive after European gods of which we know not. Everything the Albion does is about their God. So when you run around here chasing down the birth certificate, the Social Security, the Federal Reserve notes, oh, I'm going to get paid. Paid with what? You striving after European gods of which you know not. Go back to the mindset of your foremothers and forefathers. Study, 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 so you don't get caught up in foolishness. I mean, he said, I brought you everything. The only thing left for me to do is kill you. Well, prophecy fulfilled. 3 years, Moore's been getting killed right on national TV. Prophecy fulfilled. Wake up.
Islam.
Islam.
And going back to the theme of today's broadcast, going back to the ancient mindset, Noble Drew Ali forced us into that mindset by giving us a 10,000-year-old flag.
Mm-hmm.
Now, keep in mind that the universe speaks a vibration, and common sense rides that wave that the universe is moving with. For somebody to tell you that there's a flag that represents your Moorish whatever, and have you abandon the flag that's 10,000 years old, common sense should tell you that those people aren't studying. and if they're not studying, why are you even listening to them?
Right.
Because clearly, if they're saying that they're Moorish anything, that idea, that concept came from what Noble Drew Ali brought. So there's certain things that Noble Drew Ali brought that is current theme throughout anything that says Moorish on it or more on it or anything relative. One thing is that flag. Red flag, 5-point green star, because if you are a nation, you need a flag. Point blank period, nothing to discuss, nothing to debate. The flag that Noble Drew Ali brought for the Moors is over 10,000 years old. Right. I don't know whose flag's in that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what they make up. I don't care how big their book is that they wrote. If they're claiming to be Moorish, whatever, and they are not talking about the red flag with the 5-point green star, they are not in the mindset of their ancient foremothers and forefathers. Their mindset is modern, which means their mindset would be corporate.
Mm-hmm. Good point.
And then take that same corporate perspective and add that to everybody that says that they're Choctaw Inc. and Cherokee Inc., MSTA Inc., Moorish Divine whatever Inc.
Mm-hmm. Good point. Very good.
And again, the game is get the people's minds. Because once they have the mind, they have the body.
Mm-hmm.
They'll need the body. That's why they have the concept of revolving door with the prison.
Mm-hmm.
They have that individual's mind that doing whatever they're doing to wind them up in whatever situation, they're not doing anything to change that. That's going to be a repetitive thing. Now put that on a nation of people. And you see how Noble Drew Ali forced Moors again to be humanitarian. Because you can't be compensated for doing good. There's no compensation for doing good. You can't get anything if you're doing good. Right, which goes back, and we have to bring this up again about the corporate mindset and individuals taking literature off rvbaypublications.com and selling it for 5 times the price and claiming that they're doing just like what Amazon does or what Target does. That's their reference point. That means they have a corporate mindset.
Absolutely.
It means clearly they're not Foremothers and Forefathers. They're modern. They're current. They're a current nation, which means they're a fraud.
Exactly.
Right.
If I may, your points are very good. I mean, it kind of, ought to be able to be well understood that if you're saying you're more and, you're doing the studies and you know that this is your flag and it's over 10,000. In some ways it says over 50,000. Now, I know part of why it says over 50,000 because I think they're talking about the flag, the white, the matriarch flag. But still, we're all one family. So that would have been longer. But, 10,000 is good, So why is it that someone is creating a new flag? Very good point. And saying they're doing the prophet's work and they're coming from the temple. Sometimes you just have to look at things from a reasonable actually intellectual, because reason is just below intellect. So, you reason it out and then, use some intelligence with it. And what you said makes a lot of sense. So that's a good sign. Now, earlier, I think I wanted to take a note. You were talking about municipality as a corporation. If you look up municipal warrant, that's what they call that they give you. But a municipal warrant is a bill of exchange.
You know what? I want to interject something there for people. This is it pertains to what you just said. How many people have ever gone? How many people have, because Walmart has one of those debit cards, and you can register it and reload it. Now, the reason I want to say this is because I went online to see what their terms and conditions were, and yes, and on there. Now, it said, I'm trying to find it. I think I took a screenshot of it, but on under their terms and conditions, they say that you can use their cards for X amount of things, but like to reload money, they give you a list of so-called money. Forms of money that you can use and load on their card. And then they give you another list of what you cannot use to load money on the card. One of them said a warrant.
A what?
So, a warrant.
A warrant.
Yes, a warrant. Yes. So I think I screenshotted it because I was like, wow. I need to take a picture of that. But, it would be beneficial to many people. Just, some of these places that you're going online or wherever, like credit card, debit card, whatever you're using, check out the terms and conditions. You'll be amazed at some of the things that they put right in your face.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to interject that because when you mentioned warrant, I was like, let me interject this right there because right there they tell you if you cannot use a warrant to load money on a Walmart debit card, it's telling you it's a form of money.
Exactly.
That they accept some way.
Right.
I mean, it's not there for nothing. It's there for a purpose. So I just wanted to just interject that real quick.
Yeah, and that's a good.
No, I was just going to add on this one point too. That certain things you buy, they offer you the warranty.
True.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, I was going to say, look. So that's a great observation. However, you can also go right into the Black's Law Dictionary and look up the fact that a municipal warrant is a bill of exchange as well. So these things that we're bringing out now, is only affirmation of that fact. That's what you just proved, the affirmation of that fact. Now you go to the Constitution, Article 1, Section 9 for Congress and 10 for states, and vice versa. And it says that they're not allowed to make bills, to establish bills of exchange. So this lets you know just how much we've been, duped by not knowing the law, not knowing it. And so corporations, we talked about, well, hey, they're corporations, they're not government, and we were having a conversation that they're governing something. Yes, they're governing something, they're corporations. And this is where the diversity comes in at. And also, this brings, earlier when you were saying about not going down to their places, well, guess what? I got an email this morning, and probably many of you have as well, about the sister that went down to a county to put something on the record. Now, I don't know who she is. I'm not talking about, I don't know all of her details. However, I think it's very important. I don't know whether she went to put her name correction and judicial notice on the record at the county, but that's an agency and not a government entity. So I don't know if that's what she was doing or whether she was responding to them hindering her. What we want to put out that is important now is not before, especially now that they physically accosted this woman, tased her. I thought it said shot her, but when they meant tased, I believe. Tased her in her stomach, womb area, solar plexus, all right, the manger, right, that's what it is, a couple of times, broke out of windows or something, all of this happening on the parking lot of a municipal venue, building, all right? So what this means is if you do, this is caution, because if you do have to deal with them, you definitely don't want to have to go down there. You want to put something on the record for whatever reason. If there's a reason, then you want to put it in the daggone mail. This is further proof for that, because it's getting kind of funky right now, for real. But now I understand that they also told her, and to me it's like, okay, we need to really look at this and see what's happening. They told her we don't follow the law and we don't follow the Constitution. Well, where are we? We're at a municipal venue, at a municipal location, hearing room or whatever, or building or administrative office. That's really what it is for them. And they're telling you, we don't follow the Constitution. Like, nah, how about that? Well, how much more honest could they be? They're saying that because they don't. They don't follow it. So any infraction they do, such as probably maybe there was an issue where they hindered her on, sent out their private security guard, of which the mayor of that town is the CEO, needs to be held responsible for what all the employees do. So they probably, I don't know. I don't know the particulars of the case, but we do know this is what they do. Send out their municipal, their private security guards to stalk you, because they are, as it is described by lawful definition, they are highwaymen, which means they go out on the highway to accost travelers. It doesn't say they go out on the highway to accost drivers. It says travelers. So they may have sent that out, and you feel like you need to respond to that or whatever, but we are saying respond via mail. And definitely, you're right, it's a civil infraction, so go directly. Like, we don't even need to even know. We already know they're here. They don't, and that they're a corporation. Listen, if they're a corporation, they cannot be government. Any corporation, by case law, it says, has no parity with the real, meaning real flesh and blood. We know this to be a fact. So therefore, as you always say, Anna E., treat them like they are a Wawa. Walmart, and something happened to you on their watch or whatever like that. But I know the mental is that we have been for generations believing they're government, and they're not. They're certainly not following the Constitution. So now, which is the law of the land, regardless to who is here. So now, for them to tell her that, to tell anyone that, is an admission. They're saying, hey, we don't give a damn. We're doing what we want to do. You know what I mean? And we're not following the law. So, yes, it's time for definite civil suits against them in civil infractions. So that's pretty heavy. Now, one other thing is, and Anna E., you mentioned earlier, too many people, and I'm going to say this, and if the shoe fits, wear it. It's pretty bold, but too many people are definitely mixing the apples with the oranges when they're trying to deal with national principles and these corporations. So they identify these as corporations, and they still act like, they got to ask permission, because that's the mental. Now, I'm telling you, like somebody today said that there are a consul general. I mean, I thought I'd hit the floor. What the hell is a consul general? The Constitution says you have a right to consul. So now this is proof to you that our people will not let go of the corporate construct and way of thinking. So, we will tell people attorney general. All right, so now they're going to take consul. There's a loaded word consul that's in the law. And they're going to put consul general because they can't let go of it. They cannot let go of it. Now, I'm telling you, if you got somebody leading a group or telling you to come do this and be a consul general, because before they were being a private attorney general, right? Now they're going to be consul generals. This is like new stuff, right? But if you got somebody telling you that, you really need to ask them what their nationality is. You really need to find out whether their mother is European or not. I'm very serious, and I do mean it, because it's not just whether they are, but you also need to check yourself with your mindset of thinking in a modern European way. Remember, the Prophet said, like you said, we started straying after the strange gods of Europe, of which we knew nothing about. We all know now that these people are not doing anything except exercising their religion. All of their institutions, everything they do, it's their religion. All right? So why would someone want to say they're a Lodio, a national, and then hold on to corporate stuff? Like the question I'm asking you to ask yourself and others, are they cleansed yet? Are they really ready to start teaching you how to do something when they are already showing that they're not quite right by trying to make up new titles called consul general? The hell is that? All right? To mix and match and teach how to deal with the corporations. Listen, the corporations are going out of business. The only reason why they will stay in business are the people who do stuff like that keeps propping them up. You know, and I want to say that, you know, I was doing a class and there was a brother there, and I didn't get to finish to talk to him. I don't know if he listened or whatever, but he came up to me and he does a lot of traveling, and he will go to Barranquilla, what we have called Puerto Rico, which we can now stop calling Puerto Rico because it's not Puerto Rico. And he told me that even before the bankruptcy that's going down, you know, unless somebody decides to prop Puerto Rico back up, but I don't care if they do prop it up. Puerto Rico is a corporation, it's not a landmass. And he had told me that he was already told by his traveling agency, or obviously that was a Lodio that was there, never say that you're coming to Puerto Rico when you're traveling. Say you're coming to Puerto Rico. They're telling him, you've got to call it what it is. See, on this side, we don't get that. We don't get that news, that northeast, west, south winds blowing, fires going, you know, water rising. That's just on the north, the east, the west, and the south. That's what's really happening. That's it. Which, by the way, there's 31 fires in Florida right now. I was told earlier about it. If you look on the news, you can see stuff about it. But so he was already told to say he was going to Barranquilla. Same thing that happened when the so-called travel ban. The other people knew they're not coming to U.S.A. But yet you got Moors propping up U.S.A. But they're not traveling to the U.S.A., to the United States of America. There's no such place. It's a corporate construct, period. So, you know, so it was interesting to me that he affirmed that. He already was working like that and affirmed it, and they told him don't say that. So now that it's bankrupt, it's same with the U.S.A. You don't want to say you're coming there. So I just say, if someone is telling you this new thing about consul general, they are mixing corporate with allodial, and the two cannot be mixed. Mm-hmm. This is not the time for that. It is not the time. They will not let go of it. So I'm thinking that these are modern Europeans or modern European ideology that we keep picking up instead of being who we are, who our foremothers and forefathers were and are, you know, and taking our place amongst the affairs of men and let this corporate stuff go, because, again, Annie, as you said, that's the reason that the Constitution was established as the law of the land. Now, don't get it wrong. If whatever your mother, and don't go by your father, go by what your mother is if you're not sure. Okay, it doesn't matter what the mixing, you know, let's say you had a European that made it with a Moabite sister, the babies are Moabite, period. You had a Moorish son mating with a modern European, the baby's a modern European. This is how you can clear up the mess. Don't use the patriarchal veil over it, because that's not in nature's law. And that's not national, nor is it international maxim or law. So this is the reason why it's done, so that we can all be real clear. Now, it doesn't mean that if you're a modern European, you don't have any, you know, liberties. Of course you do. But you're just going to have to say what your nationality is, and don't try to fit into being something that you're not. Because don't we know about that? We get it a lot, you know. We get a lot of modern European sons. They'll be conversing back and forth on the internet, on your email and stuff, and you don't know who they are. You don't know that they are, but we have nothing to hide, because all we're talking is law, and it goes for everybody. So then suddenly they're like, okay, I'm going to get a card, or I'm going to whatever, and then boom, they send you the picture, and you have to tell them, you have to say, listen, you are not the ones coined Negro, colored, and black, that you're not Aboriginal, but you do have a nationality. What is that? Because it sure is not the Moabite. So I just wanted to say, be real careful, because our people will keep mixing the two and coming up with new stuff. And I don't want to say it's too late, because it never is too late. It's just that it's real topside now. It's real topside now. So be very careful about that, about what you enter into. make sure that you are not mixing corporate. Look, corporations are falling, and corporations have no relation, parity with the real flesh and blood beings. There's a case law that tells you that. It's on my year before. Mm-hmm. Hey, you like that new word, Annie? Consul General?
That's
it.
That word, see, when you read, you got to look up the word consul and not consul and counselor. All right? Because, see, here's the craziness. Modern Europeans have mentally conditioned us to believe that when you hear, look at the Constitution. It says counsel. It doesn't say somebody to speak on your behalf, somebody to speak for you. It doesn't say that. And you know what? When you go back and you look in the congressional record, even when you go back to, because I went and I looked up the definition of, oh my gosh, what was it? This word, because I got a document in the mail, and before I got it regarding, an alleged claim, my daughter had gotten one. So I looked up this word, and forgive me, but if I don't remember the word, but anyway, the word when I looked it up, it said it was English law, and it said that this particular word was referencing an attorney, and it said that the attorney would speak on an attorney only speaks on behalf of the king's interest. If the king's interest was not involved, then it was between the parties. All right? Now, what a lot of people are confused on is they think that attorney, and they've been mentally conditioned to believe this, they believe that attorney means, somebody's supposed to speak for you. That's not what, see, an attorney is something that was created, and it was never created for the benefit of the people. That was created to make it so that the slaves were property. They were likened to a chair. A chair can't speak. So you would have an attorney speaking on behalf of the interest of the owner, or you would have the owner speaking. But in the Constitution, and if you look up the word counsel, they're supposed to advise you, like consult you, right? They're the people who would give you, the pros and the cons of whatever strategy you want to take. But they're not somebody who would come and speak for you. You're supposed to be able to. Everybody is supposed to be able to speak for themselves. The only people, flesh and blood people, do not have someone else speaking for them, for themselves. And you know what? When you think about people's liberty, if I come up and slap you in the face, do you need somebody to come and interpret to you that I slapped you in the face? You don't need that, because it's common sense, which is why the law is called common law. Because if I or anybody injures you, common sense is going to say, I need to go and get some sort of remedy for this. Now, if somebody slapped me in the face and I got to go and make an account of what happened, am I able to say what happened? Yes, I am. It happened to me. I felt the slap. And I know what it did to me. So this idea that you got to be savvy and you got to be, you got to be all, off the charts. Law is common, meaning it's so simple, stupid that a 5-year-old can figure it out. If you go and you slap a 5-year-old today, they will tell you exactly what went down. There's a reason that most mothers send their 5-year-old children with their daddy, because they're going to come back and make a full report. 5 years old. You going to tell me you 25, 30 of what happened to you? Really? That's counsel. That you're supposed to be able to verbally make your own claim.
Well, wouldn't that be first-hand knowledge?
Yes.
Wouldn't that also be first-hand knowledge? And that's why what is it called? It's hearsay is someone else saying it. It's
hearsay. That's right.
So
and look,
right.
Let me tell you. Let me just say this, and then I'm going to give you the floor. People, we really need to go back. Really, oh my goodness. I wish I could come up with some more stronger words to express how desperately we need to go back to the mindset of our foremothers and forefathers. Because if you look at the law says this is the law. If you wasn't there to witness it, if you didn't experience it, anything you say is hearsay. That's the law. And the law is the same for everybody. That means that these people, when their municipal employee accosts you on the side of the road, and they bring in their so-called prosecutor, which, by the way, is not substantiated in any constitutional law, when they bring in their prosecutor to supposedly try the issue, what they trying to do is trying to trick you. And they ain't got to try too hard. But they bring in their prosecutor, which is nothing more than an executive officer that they tell you this was the prosecutor. You don't know the difference because you ain't did no studying. So then the executive officer comes and starts running their mouth. Were they there? No. Did they give you the demand for income? No. So anything that they say is hearsay.
Yep.
Right? But now we have been so turned around. This is why Prophet said study, 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 and go back to the mindset of your foremothers. We've so turned around. We don't want to give up the European gods of which we know not. Titles like, what was it? What was it you just said? Moorish consul?
No, consul general.
Consul general, right?
Right.
Consul general, right? We start coming up with crap like that, not realizing that that's still some enslavement. Who? What you consulting on? Come on, if I know the law and you know the law and there's only one law, what are you consulting on? Right? But we don't want to give it up, right? So what we try to do is if it's not lawful for the so-called executive officer who's calling themselves a prosecutor to present hearsay, how are we going to get our homegirl or homeboy to come and do the same thing that's not lawful for the executive officer called the prosecutor? How does that
And that's
work?
why they run over you. That's why they run over you, because they know you don't know.
That's why they come in and they try you. And they try you because you ain't studying. So they tried it and got away with it. Because you think, well, the prosecutor's doing it, so I can do it too. No, that's how they try you. That's how they trick you. Because you think, well, if they're doing it, it's got to be law. Ain't nothing they doing is law. If it was law, they would have never gave you a demand for income and called it some kind of a claim, summons, suit, whatever. So, you know, we really, seriously, we don't put those European gods of which we know not, seriously, I'll put it down. Seriously. Because if you don't, you're just going to get swept away on that wind that's coming through, flowing. Islam, I yield the floor.
Islam, indeed. And to add on to that, going back to what you were saying earlier, you know, you were speaking on the European gods of which we knew nothing of. And, you know, going back to that ancient state of mind of our foremothers and forefathers, you know, like studying is so important. And I think it's also important to point out that everything you study isn't necessarily going to come straight out the book, off the page of the book. And that is no slight, because that's where a lot of information is. But once you get to a certain point, you realize that you have certain revelations and epiphanies as you go about your day, as you go about your life, which the information you already intake allows you to make sense of certain other things that happens or certain other things that you see. Example, a small example, you could be out and about and, you know, you see a billboard with a tanning lotion that says copper tone on it. You know, for me, when I see that, I'm thinking, oh, yeah, that American, it makes sense. They want to be darker. They want to be, you know, more, appear to be, you know, that copper tone that we naturally have. And I'm not saying that in an arrogant fashion. I'm just saying that that type of connection or revelation doesn't necessarily always come directly from the book. But like I said, things you read, like the definition of American, can allow you to make that correlation, like they're trying to be American on multiple levels. So going back to that ancient state of mind of our foremothers and forefathers, correlating that to these European gods of whom we know nothing of, our ancestors, you know, they did some amazing things, and this is not pseudo, by studying the stars. You know, that's an observation you have to make and then put the knowledge in the book, right? So there's no words for that, really. I mean, like, I don't know how to explain it, but it's a study, I guess we could say, using your senses, as Cujo was mentioning, about using your senses to perceive, you know. And again, it's not a light science. I'm not saying everybody should be spaced out, zoned out. I'm just saying when we talk about our sciences in the Circle 7 and getting rid of those idol gods of Europe or who we know nothing of, you know, the science of the 7 has levels to it, whether it's the days of the week, you know, the seven chakras, you know, it's just levels to it. The 7 liberal arts is what I want to emphasize, in the fact that astronomy is a part of those liberal arts, which is dealing with liberty, which again is why, you know, you look at some of the most ancient navigators, going back to the fact that our flag is 10,000 years old here in the Americas and was flying on both sides of the Great Atlantic, all right? They were using stars as the grid to navigate, you know? So on the ocean, on the Great Atlantic, you know, the stars was the guide. Even those who was traveling on the land, when you go back to Moore's Aboriginal indigenous through the lands of North America, they were traveling the land on foot, guided by stars, or on horseback, or however they was moving. You know, stars was like the road maps, the signs. So again, and mentioned before that that's not idol worship. That's ancient science, which has the potential to manifest things in real life, as we were speaking about, from your food, your clothing. I mean, you even got buildings that are baked. They're sun baked. That's how they solidify, based off of being baked by the sun. So you could take the clay of the earth, and if you're building in the right zone or in the right temperature or the right time of year, the sun will actually bake the earth, the clay that you mold, in that fashion. And you see this even in the East, all of those buildings that they have that look the same color as the ground, the tan ground and the sand and all of that. That's because it's made out of the same thing. So we can see that it was levels to using astronomy and astrology that were not just speculative. Like, this is an operative science that's infinite, I mean, it's a part of the existence. So to know that science and to apply it, is a beautiful thing. But to take that science and substitute it for idol God worship and look past everything that's obviously there, from the nighttime to the daytime, we could see the stars, the moon, we could see the sun. These are not mystery things. These are obvious existences. So to look all past all of that, like, that has nothing to do with, our existence here, is definitely, like you said, Maya, as vanity. These are obvious things, and even right now, I don't know. It's just like, again, everything won't come out of a book. Sometimes you got to pay attention to the clear signs. Now, I know there's people who are saying that the earth is flat now, and it seems like we step back a couple centuries, right? And I'm like, well, damn, really? Like, I'm open to the concept, to hear, people's explanation. I could dig it. It's not like it's an impossibility for the earth to be round, because, I mean, I look up at the moon. The moon is round. It's spherical, 360, baby. A full moon is 360 degrees, circular, spherical, not square. So if I looked up and saw the moon being square, I might be able to relate to the earth being flat. But if you look at a full moon and you see those gray patches on the moon, okay, that's like how you look at the global earth and you see a lot of it is blue, and then you got your strips of land and the continents and things like that. If, for me, I'm just saying from an astronomy perspective, like literally observing these things that we're seeing. So the next full moon, pay attention to the moon if you haven't already. Those gray spots, those gray patches on the moon could be likened to the earth land, the patches of earth on this land, but still existing within a sphere. The sun is spherical, 360 degrees, spherical. Feel me? The moon is spherical too. I don't get how the earth wouldn't be. I don't understand, because you would be able to fly off the earth. Like, if you're going from west to east and you get to the coastline, the shoreline, all right, you come to water. It's a point where the water meets the shore or meets the land. And then, if you can get on your nautical, longshoremen, or however you want to do it, movements, sailor travels or whatever, and keep it pushing on the sea. But if the earth was flat, you would have to be able to fall off it. You would have to be able to fall off it. Or, you know what I'm saying, fly off of it or whatever. It would have to be, east would have to, if you flew east, you wouldn't end back up in the west if it wasn't spherical. I'm just saying, these are thoughts that are on my mind because I have been more in tune with the astronomy and astrology and connecting back to, raising that vibration, disrespecting it. So no disrespect to anybody who philosophizes, who has that level of wisdom to say, well, maybe the surface is flat. I could dig it. I'm just saying I don't think that it's an impossibility for the earth to be spherical because of what I can see. Just off of what I can see. I can see the sun and the moon, and these are things that exist, not flat. You feel me? So I don't know, man. It's like, whose idea is that? Is like, where did this wave come from? Is this to set us back centuries? Like, I mean, you can look at the book Moors in Spain. They break down in the intro about the science of, astronomers, and all astronomers basically concluding, before the Europeans was even thought of or whatnot, that the Earth is spherical, fam. Like, it's just, it is. But so I say that to say that, going back to that ancient state of mind of our foremothers and forefathers, the astronomy aspect, the astrology aspect is real deal, to the point that we have a 5-pointed star in the center of our national flag. So who had a respect for the sources, which you have to ask? Since our ancestors had to have a certain respect for the cosmos, the universe, for them to place a green 5-pointed star in the center of a national flag. That's speaking, that's saying something. That's an embodiment of astrology in the national flag. That's a reflection of the fact that they had respect for the cosmos, that they had respect for these things, and know that it related to their existence, to the point that that's reflected in the national flag, to the point that Noble Drew Ali made sure that lesson was left in chapter 1 of the Circle 7, when he was saying that, the Seraphim and the Cherubim, spirit of mighty Allah, who rule the stations of the sun and the solar stars, all right, will lead to victory. And those are your guide and your salvation. No, excuse me. Yeah, they are your guides, and they will lead to victory. So all of this philosophy, or all of this science or knowledge or wisdom, they're reflected on the divine and the national level, meaning in your holy text, in the politics. And another thing is that was been like, just really, really thinking about it as of lately. Watching the video of when we was in the museum, they had it big on the wall. When you go into that portion where they had the bell, it was this old church bell that symbolized the sound of freedom or whatnot from the emancipation days or whatnot. But biggest day on the wall, it quotes the Declaration of Independence. And in there, of course, we know that it says whenever, any form, whether you're talking because there's multiple forms of government, but there's, in law, in American law, there's only one lawfully sanctioned form of government, which is the republic for the Europeans. Yes, Moors have, ancient government that is not subject to them. So everybody's not subject to that so-called government, because it's really not. Like you said, it's a corporation. But everybody's not subject to that jurisdiction. But even if they were, it's in that law that it says that when any form of government, becomes abusive or whatnot, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it. You feel me? So the power is in the people on that note. So if it is the right to alter or abolish it, then, that's a heavy task on the people. Not them, not the ones who are abusing power. You feel me? Something has to be done about it, and the people have a right to do something about it. That's facts, and not even to beg them to act right. Like literally alter or abolish it. Done, finito, over with type of move. So where does that start at? Where does that start? That has to start in the mind. That has to be known. That has to be a part of the thought process of a people to even achieve that.
Well,
right?
Can I ask you this?
And we could say, hold on, we could even say that it's already not government, so you don't have to count it. But my fault, please go ahead and ask.
Saying what you said, right? Even if it were, so what it all really comes back to, like you said, is the people. However, the people are so uneducated unknowledgeable about government. Not that we're saying that we would abolish that, but if that were the case, what's happening instead is the people are trying to figure out how to navigate within a defunct situation. It's defunct. It's not theirs, and it's defunct. So instead of recognizing what is government and what is not government, and what that the power is in the people, the people have been so brainwashed to believe that what has been in front of them is the government. That they, we're talking about, whatever it is, you can abolish it. They want to work with it and try to. It's crazy. It's
and justify the tyranny.
Yes.
And justify the tyranny,
yes.
and then act as if. And then act as if. More so is saying, now we're not up under that jurisdiction or wrong. That's not right. You feel me? Now people can consent because it says in there that, hey, if they only arrive their just powers from the consent of the governed, right?
That's right.
So if somebody is not consenting to that quote unquote sort of control or governing, then it is what it is. There's no jurisdiction. It's not a mutual agreement. So what do? They try to subject people by force, like they told the sister, we don't follow the Constitution. Okay, so then you already know what time it is. You don't have any standing, bottom line. And then to alter or abolish these things, they should not be getting off in the name of quote-unquote government abusing people purposely, purposely. Like, it's one thing to cause a civil injury and sincerely didn't mean it, and, you might have to talk it out, settle the situation or whatnot. That's civics. Oh, okay, I didn't know. You might have, whatever it is. You know what I mean? You make that person whole again. But, once they tell you, like, look, this is my birthright, this is what it is, to go against their claim, that's definitely tyrannical. That's unconstitutional. But then when you're talking about people who are saying we don't care about the Constitution, well, shit, I don't know, man. It's like there's going to be a lot of forces to make change. Because even today, Trump just fired the FBI director. Fired just today.
Well, that's their agency, though.
Right. So what's coming? What's behind that, though? Because we know that they put out a report saying that the quote unquote institutions of law have been hijacked by the Klan, but so has them. They are too. All those alphabet boys are branches of the Inquisition gang, of the Spanish Inquisition. That's still them. They're the lineal descendants of those people, and I'm talking about the families that run it, the ones who are hiring, not the ones who are working. The families that run it are lineal descendants, and they know about the Moors. But what did they do? They went on a sort of German campaign of what they call it, set zone, basically silencing anybody with political opposition to their agenda. And that's what they did. Even on the so-called federal level, they had magistrates putting out opinions and things like that were completely negative suggestions, like bottom line, and designed to oppress the uprising of Moors. So, realizing all of these things, tired of, like you were saying, you're not even trying to go down there and file anything with them. I could dig it. I could definitely dig it because I'm like, it's important. The paperwork is definitely important, but it gets to a point where it's like you realize either you're going to respect what it is or y'all deliberately are violating, birthrights. And I'm not, you said, fitting to try to convince you of that. I'm not stupid. I start to understand, not that we wanted it this way, and I really don't, I'm not saying everybody has to feel this way. Take it how you feel, but I'm just saying that you start to feel like when somebody can disrespect your nationality, your birthrights, your rights, your liberties, blatantly, blatantly, bluntly, it starts to make you feel like you got enemies. And I ain't trying to say, war is the best thing that happened, but shit, we ain't sleep. We see what's happening. It ain't all peace. It's definitely not. It's supposed to be, but it's not. When sisters is going to file paperwork and getting tased in the stomach in the region where the babies is at before they even tap into a spark to be born, this is the ultimate disrespect to natural law, to a nation. You know what I mean? To take violent measures like that on people's women, anybody's women. But that's how they came off. Like, and I ain't saying, everybody don't have mistakes and everybody, don't have disagreements. I'm just saying, show me a Moorish brother who pulled out a taser and tased the sister. Show me one. I know there's domestic violence cases and things like that. But these people be on a whole nother level with violating people, like, intentionally. And again, I'm not downplaying the fact that, like, everybody has the good attributes, evil attributes, etc. The potential and kinetic is always there. So I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that what they're doing right now is unacceptable. Like, it's starting to be unacceptable. It's like mentally raping the people. You're mentally raping the people, knowing that their oath to the Constitution is on file, knowing that the oath to the Constitution is on file right in the building that she was going to file the paperwork in, and they're telling her they don't follow the Constitution. So, I mean,
Islam, that's just the way, that's just blatant.
It's a blatant
disrespect. But
so they're amping up. They're amping up on different levels of violence. Crazy. What was it? Just as of recent, it was something that happened out L.A. and they're known for having the helicopters on deck out there for things like when certain things happen and police chases and pursuits. They've been, infamous for the helicopter. And they were saying that as of now, just this week, it might have even been today. I know I just saw it today, but the LAPD employed they fired from the helicopter for the first time just today or the other day or something like that. So now they're shooting people from the helicopters. So, like, these people are getting emboldened with the violent acts. So I don't think it's anything we should be afraid of or be in fear of or, not, I don't know. I can't tell anybody how to feel. I'll just say it like this, man. Remember when the sister was reenacting the scene with Araminta Ross or Harriet Tubman? Yeah. And she was like, look, she said, I will never try to convince anybody to run ever again in my life. I'm never trying to convince anybody because if you don't have that fire, I can't give it to you. You got to be made for or have it within you. And if you don't, I'm not trying to convince you. You feel me? And it's not that she wasn't trying to help nobody, but she just wanted them to show the fire, take the first step. You know what I mean? And that's it. Because outside of that, nobody's trying to convince you. Because she learned that she could have freed more people if they had realized what status they were in. So-called, quote-unquote, slaves. But you can't convince these people they're not free because, they got their license and can travel back and forth and all of these things, right? Not that it's anything wrong with that, but it's a false perception of freedom, which is an illusion that allows someone to be enslaved mentally. Like you said, they're after the minds of the people. So if you can mentally have somebody think that they're free and they're not, because you got to remember this too. When these plantations first kicked off, they were super large. They were humongous. You feel me? So the whole quote-unquote quote unquote, a whole quote unquote state would have been considered a plantation. Imagine trying to run off of a plantation that large. You feel me? So it's like no matter where you go, you're still on the plantation unless you know the jurisdiction and you know that that's your ancestral estate, and you start making the counterclaims because the word is powerful. You know, the word is the element of air, God, etc. So, you know, depending on your claim and your mind state. And I'm gonna end it on this note. Thoughts are powerful things. What you allow and what you don't allow into your thought process is extremely potent on the outcome. And I'll give you an example. Yesterday I was on the island and I had my camera because I had just shot something. And I was walking down the street and brothers saw me and they was like, yo, they wanted to spit some poetry on my camera. So I was like, all right, you know what I mean? I'll record y'all. So I'm recording them in front of the store, and my back to the street, the policy enforcers pull up and, you know, throw their lights on. They throw their lights on because it's a bunch of Moors right in front of this store. So I looked, and I looked back at the one who was saying their poetry. So the policy enforcers walked around because I didn't give them no attention, zero. I just looked like they wasn't even there. I saw they was there, but I didn't give them no energy, zero, nothing. And they walked right past me into the store. I guess they went into the store to ask the clerk, the store clerk, if we was causing a disturbance or whatnot, trying to find a reason to, you know what I mean, approach everybody and all of that as they do. But we did not break that cipher. We didn't give them that energy. So they went into the store. They came back out and asked. When they came back out, they tried to pull one brother to the side and asked him something. I don't know what they asked him because the other brother was still saying his poetry. But they didn't ask any of us anything. We ignored they didn't exist. Now, had I put the camera on them, that would have gave them the attention they were looking for. You feel me? Which is why I didn't. So I say that to say that I perceived it as the power of the mind, which you give attention and you don't. You know, these things like I didn't, when they pulled up, I didn't recognize royalty. Like, they didn't make me stop in my tracks. I didn't, you know, it wasn't worthy of stopping anything. Like, you know what I mean? Because it's just, well, had we been all scary and all of that, they would have had everybody down on the ground, you know what I mean, just because we were shooting a video. And it was spontaneous. It wasn't even planned. It just happened like that. So I say that to say that what you put, man, be a mind, what you put your mind to, you know, can create different outcomes. What you give attention and what you don't in certain situations might be the determining factor of the outcome. And with that, I yield the floor, fam.
Islam.
All right. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to begin to take callers. If you have a question, comment, or a concern, press 1 on your cell phone dial. And we'll take the callers in the order that we receive them. All righty. So we have caller. All right. Caller 215-421. You're live on the air. Please state your appellation and your question.
Islam family, Qasim Malik Bey, Northwestern Mexham, Philadelphia Territory. Peace and love, Mother Roz, Mother Anaid, and Brother Cujo, and Mr. Mantis himself, Ms. Rain. What's happening? How y'all feeling tonight?
All right. That's fine. How are you?
You know, I got to give you the intro right there with the Mantis because you doing some great and beautiful things, brother. I just got to let you know that, you know, I'm on it. I'm watching. So, Islam, so pretty much everything that you guys covered tonight from the very, very beginning of the show is almost like a confirmation in my mind and in my spirit, because this is something that me and the family, my family build on often. And it actually was a conversation that I just was having with the Noble earlier prior to the show. It's just very, very, it's just pretty deep how the mental condition and the understanding that, you know, a lot of our people are having all over the globe, and especially on this continent, of understanding that this is a corporation that we are navigating through. This corporation and also these counties and cities and boroughs, the thing that they exist on paper. And without us really studying it and understanding their existence and knowing the real from the fraud and knowing the real from the artificial, you know, and not only that, what the prophet brought is something that was beautiful. It's beautiful, but it takes for us to really study ourselves to know how beautiful and how strong and powerful when the prophet came during this era of time, or the moment that he came, what he brought back to us. And it's amazing how people get so caught up on the arguments of the prophet instead of really studying his works and the things that he brought to us. He brought us a foundation to climb, to climb out of that, you know, situation. And Noble Asim, I want to make sure I put Noble Asim out there. My uncle, that's who I always build with, and just to put it on the record, so to identify who we are. But what the prophet has brought us during that era of time is amazing. And I think that we pay more attention to the arguments about him and the arguments about Jesus, this whole idol worshiping thing, instead of really paying attention and really studying what the prophet brought. Just like he said, I brought you everything to save a nation. Now go save yourselves. And then people say, myself. So, you know, I always make a reference point. Look at chapter 1, study chapter 1 until you really get it. You might be on it for a year straight until you really understand what he said in chapter 1 before we even get into everything else. And then when you make it to chapter 3, then you see how, then it really hits your spirit in a way where it just blows up. It just blows you up, you know, in many different directions. So when he states that the divine and national movement, the divine part sets in so strong. And that gives you the keys and the understanding when you look up in the sky. That gives you that opens so many doors. And you, like Cujo said earlier about the vibration, you start to vibrate higher to a higher plane, and then it's like you start to see things with your eyes closed. You start to understand and feel energy through every handshake, or when you look these people who work for these municipalities in their eye, you know, you start delivering that energy that way. Like, look, I don't fear what you got going on. I know what this is. And if you don't know what it is, you should learn what it is. But if you know what it is, then you know what it is. You know what I'm saying? So if y'all understand where I was coming from with that. But just like Mother Anna E. at the beginning of the show was breaking down, it's these corporations, it's like the business is where a lot of our people is taking it so personal of the people who was running these corporations, instead of understanding that they're standing behind what these corporations are, or they're just taking the policies, which is on paper. They're taking these codes and statutes, which is on paper. They taking all of these corporations and incorporations, all of these things and these joint ventures and these connections, everything that's documented on paper, and they taking it so personal, and they keeping it so close to their hearts where they can't grow. And, you know I sound, people say, oh, you preaching, but it's like most Moors who are active and they share positive videos such as Mantis 29, you know, I got to shout you out, the views, that positive energy, when that positive energy projects out, of course, you have the other spirits that want you to believe that, you know, somebody's just trying to put you in the fairy tale land or fairy tale world, when we're actually just trying to deliver it in a certain way where it can feel more comfortable and close to you, so you can understand truly what it is, you know. But I understand that the battle that a lot of us conscious Moors are dealing with, and a lot of us were born with a certain type of spirit and energy already, and it's like since we become more knowledgeable about what these corporations are, understanding that I have to look up this charter for this person that's sending me this fraudulent mail, or I'm gonna look up the corporation to figure out, who is the top CEO or anything when you're doing your research. Even the charter of your own territory that you're standing in now. All the Moors that are on the line. If you look up the charter and things like that of your own territory that you're in now, you realize that it was created artificially. And you understand that at a point in time you were subjects to the artificial, but now that we climb up out of that, it makes it it's more evident and more potent for us to stand on our square. So with the prophet bought, I pretty much closed my ears, the ones that in the physical that I've been utilizing, to the fact the argument about the prophet, because why are we arguing about the prophet? Why aren't we talking about what the prophet brought to us to save ourselves, to our own earthly salvation? We're not going to be here in the flesh forever. We're eventually we're going to drop, but that's not who we truly are. Let's read chapter 1, and then let's not debate no more. Let's not debate no more. I commend and I want to say peace to everybody who's coming up with different conference calls, weekly video chats about, exactly what the prophet has brought, studying the Circle 7, the Holy Quran, just to get your spirit right. You got to get your spirit right for you to take a stand, And one other thing, I don't want to, take over the airwaves too much, but I just want to share something that happened about a month ago. Something called me in a sense to, step outside of, my care of location. And it was a car creeping slow. Now, in the area that we in, it's only a few things that can happen when the car creeps slow, around you. So I paid close attention. And, of course, it was people, subjects or citizens of the area, the borough, had their properties parked outside and things like that. And I seen that this person was putting tags and stickers on the cars. And the property. I'm gonna just say property, because we we got to start conditioning ourselves to understand that this is property as well. So when I read the tag, it said about 72-hour code and things like that, or they're going to snatch it up. So I happened to talk to the brother, and it was a Moor that was in an unmarked car that was doing this, and he states that he done. Yes, he states that he was in this so-called force for like 20 years, doing the same thing that he's doing today. It was something that was kind of funny to me. But I happened to engage in a conversation with this Moor. And nationality came up, but of course he curbed that, in a sense. But we started talking about the reason why it was such a strict and it was so much to enforce for him to put stickers on properties and to take it. And he, during the conversation, he came out and said straight up to me, he said, look, he said the state and these municipalities and things like that, there's a lot of suing going back and forth. And these counties and boroughs are going so broke that they need finance. Wow. And he said this county and this borough that I'm in and I monitor, they need so much finance in order to even stay alive. Well, we already know that is on paper. But this is the thing. There's so much suing going on between, I guess, conscious people who are exercising their rights and just people that's in the so-called corporate arena who maybe is losing finance out of their situation is beginning to sue and do different things. So he simply said that these counties and stuff like that are going broke. So what they have to do is go and stalk and write tickets, pull people over for no reason, take your properties, make you pay for that. They have to do all of these things because the so-called state or the higher-ups is looking down because there's not enough things are being generated, But not to be long-winded, but I just... That? Yes, he said that.
See? Okay, well, yes, was there any consciousness with him as to, we know that it's true, but he actually says that and still works for the people for this. I'm baffled in a way, but not really.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a lot of it going on. And he gave me his card. and his card says Commonwealth Code Enforcer.
All right,
and
so then he's stalking those who think or admit or don't contest that fall up under being a part of a jurisdiction. So once the people wake up and say, like for instance, you're talking about at Philadelphia, I mean, the entire traffic court, so-called traffic court, they disbanded all that, but they just opened up, as the sister was telling me, as a different type of corporation and still doing tickets and stuff. But I'm having a hard time with the fact that they are admitting it, even though I know they're admitting it. Like, doesn't this guy have a consciousness, or is he only thinking about the fact that, like you said, he's been working there for so long, and if he doesn't do this, he's not going to have any way to feed his children?
Exactly, and that's what I was coming off about the divine side of things, where he's conscious of the fact that this is wrong, because he stated it, but he's also trapped in the flesh, where he has to continue to feed the flesh and provide for the flesh. So, there's no humility, or there's no change of career, so to speak, or there's nothing else that he's willing to do, exactly to, he has to have that, and he feels so high to have that, so-called sense of authority to do that. So that was something that was pretty deep to me, and there's a lot more wrapped around that conversation, but I just wanted to simply say that it's to everybody on the line, we have to just really just take time to study. And there's a reason why the prophet says study, 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 like Anna and all of you always say, just study, 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 because it's just more than just like a so-called slogan or a quote. It's really a tap you into a higher level of existence. And it's also, let you know that when you engage in paperwork, like y'all mentioned earlier about mail, even something that's mail and how you handle that situation can completely 360 the whole situation, and as far as the claims and everything like that, And one other thing before I close out, because I don't want to be, too long-winded about everything. I happened to do some research in reference to property, just really getting a deeper insight, because they change things every week. So I come to understand that this state, the state of Pennsylvania territorial landmass, they kind of flip-flop a thing where if you're trying to operate a property or a conveyance, they're making you insure the property before you go through any type of process or so-called registration or license or any of those artificial things. They're pretty much binding you into a situation before you even go through the other steps. It's just pretty wild what they're doing in reference to your personal property and real property and things like that. So Islam, man, thanks for having me on the line tonight.
Thanks for sharing.
Indeed, and I'm still listening. I'm chiming in, and peace and love to the panel and all the Moors around the world. Islam.
Islam, thank you for sharing. Wow, and you know what? I guess when they say because people are suing, so it's like they trying to bite that, but it's not going to last. I mean, they can't win. Islam, thank you.
Islam, peace.
Wow. Oh, that's crazy. I guess they'll do.
Actually, that's real.
No, it is real. It is very real. He who can be fooled, let him, is the maxim that I used to not like. Like that doesn't make it right just because somebody can be a fool to fool them. But that is exactly the maxim that they're dealing with. It's a woman.
But the prophet did say people would be forced to make change. And unfortunately, he also said that we're hard-hearted people and never did nothing except at the point of a sword. So we've been telling people, even before we've been telling people, the prophet told everybody, he strongly advised everybody, study. Did anybody study? Are people studying? I mean, come on.
Some did. Many did not.
Basically, he's saying, basically, this is what he's saying. If everybody was studying, this would have been a breakfast fight a long time ago.
Yes, and you know what else he said? You know what else he proved in that exchange? Is that, like he said, they changing it all the time. Well, that lets you know that's not law. And so as long as we keep trying to stay in and up with them and what they're doing, we're showing that we're not enforcing the law ourselves, because those are statutes and codes, and they are not law. And so this is why we're telling people, you must, the prophet said, the nations don't want the law because it is too stern, right? You must stay on top of it. If not, they will run you right into the ground with the next change, because because the people keep, changing with whatever they say instead of standing on the law. Islam, wow. That's what he also let us do.
Islam. Islam. Yeah, that's correct. But there's a lot of stuff going, like what he said about the municipal corporation. It's not surprising, but the key in everything that he said is that because the people are waking up and they're suing, because they recognize that, look, people are just sick and tired of being afraid. They're sick and tired of coming home every day to a demand that don't make no sense. It used to be that, some of the things that they were demanding, okay, you can get away with it. But like he said, these corporations, they don't have a product or service. Let me just interject that. So they haven't been able to successfully rape the people as they used to. And the people are just so sick and tired of it. They've been fighting back, suing. Now, as a result of the suing, they're not bringing in the same kind of income they used to.
Right.
And so they have had to up their game, make new and more frequent demands, to the point where people are coming home every day to a demand of income. And so everybody who has received the demand is going down and disputing it. Now, the problem with that is when you get a bunch of people together, 75% of the people may not have necessary information, but once they hook up with them 25% that do, and everybody's mad as a hornet, all hell breaks. And that's why these municipal corporations are going bankrupt, because the information is flying across the nation, and we need it to fly even more. Everybody. I don't care if you're a declared Moor or an undeclared Moor. I don't care if you calling yourself Negro, colored, or black. I don't care if you think you a modern European or you think you American. If you have a vote and you're breathing, you need to investigate the municipal corporation that you are near, because ain't nobody in a municipal corporation, because all corporations are nothing more than something that was created from the mind of a man and is documented on paper. Ain't nobody in no corporation. You're near a municipal corporation just like I'm near Walmart. I'm not in Walmart, but I am near Walmart. Everybody needs to investigate the municipal corporation you are near, because when you come to find out that they don't have a product and they don't have a service, they cannot compel you under threat to take their service. So they don't have a service. All right? Now, here's a prime example of a municipal corporation taking advantage of the lack of information of people. All right? And they do it because they think people are dumb. Now, everybody here puts trash out. All right? Everybody here puts trash out. Who's picking up your trash? And how is that trash being paid for? And are you compelled to use that contracted trash collector, or can you go get your own? And if you go and get your own, do you still have to pay the municipal corporation to pick up trash for your next door neighbor?
Good point.
And if you still have to pay for the municipal corporation that you are near to pick up trash for your next door neighbor, meanwhile you contracted your own contractor, or you're taking care of it yourself in a way that is harmonious to Mother Earth, all right? You still have to give them some income. That's forced service. That's unconstitutional.
Right to associate, so, Article 1.
And everything that they do, here's the crazy thing. We need for you to pay these taxes so that there can be schools in the neighborhood. Do I have children? No. Am I teaching my children myself? Yes. So why do I have to pay for my next door neighbor's children to go and participate in your school system? That's forced service. You see, we have got to go back to the mindset of our foremothers and our forefathers. We really do. You know, the prophet said every temple is supposed to have a school. Now, if you go back to the true interpretation of what he said, the first temple is the body. So if every temple is supposed to have a school, that means that every female is supposed to have the necessary information in her head already so that she can transfer it to the child. Therefore, every temple has a school. But if you want to take it to the next degree, and you talking about a brick and mortar building, every temple is supposed to have a school. Because as long as your children are in these European institutions, they're going to teach their history their way, whether it's right or wrong. Whether it really happened or if they made something up and put it in a book and now they're teaching it to your child tomorrow. Temple is supposed to have a school, so we have options. Our children can go and learn our history, learn who their ancestors are, instead of going to a foreigner who's telling them the ancestors they gave them mathematics and astronomy was modern European. Our ancestors who gave them astronomy and astrology was pale-faced, modern European. That's what they're going to get if they go to their religion of which we know not. So every temple is supposed to have a school.
And look at how they jacked our structure too. And I got to thank you for pointing this out years ago. And when you pointed this out to me, I felt so robbed. Like I felt like I knew I wasn't surprised because the teachers, you know, dealing with the truth back then had to admit to me that once they knew they couldn't fool me, they had to just straight up tell me like, listen, what you're talking is that's not in our curriculum. You know what I mean? We can't even grade you. But what you was just saying about astronomy, they supposed to get that, because elementary school, that is where you're supposed to learn about the elements. That's where they're supposed to be giving it up, right? Real early too, like not nothing late in life, like early. They're supposed to be learning about the elements, how to start a fire, what elements to use to smother the fire, earth, how you can use the earth to put out the fire or the water, and ways not to do it, and where to aim it at, and all of these things. We're supposed to be given that. And even to the point where you're learning about the elements, right, and you're talking about earth or whatnot, planting seeds and actually seeing the power of nature to grow just a seed planted in the ground. All of these things was supposed to be emphasized, how it correlates to real life or the divine spirit, your divine existence, real young, so that these lessons will always be carried out. And even why they even have 12 grades representing each sign of the zodiac. So once you complete that cipher, this is symbolic of that. And then you go to the college, well, now you're ready to deal with politics. Because when you look at college, it just means a body of people, for established by law. You know what I mean? Like electoral college. It doesn't mean, you got your scholarship to UPenn or, I'm not knocking anybody who did, or Howard or whatever. Like I'm not knocking you if you went that route. It's good, but I'm just saying that when you look up what a college is in law, those 12 degrees or those 12 or 360 degrees representing the zodiac, 12 years or whatnot, after you get all of those lessons packed down for 12 years, you should be super advanced for the world, like ready, if you get it young. Unfortunately, some of us started getting this information after high school, and then some of us years and years after that. But, nonetheless, those of us who found out, I guess we could say justice caught us, right? Because, it's a good thing to know, no matter how late. It's a good thing to find out anything relative at any time to yourself. So I just wanted to add that on. I was inspired to say that when you mentioned about the fact that if they go to these European schools, they're going to be taught that the Europeans established astronomy. They're not going to be taught about, the Moors, what they call Mayans or whatnot, and how they was dealing with the zodiac, or that they even dealt with the zodiac, things of these natures, and how it relates to them. Like, it's not being given in there. So we can't be mad. We got to understand that they're going to start their story with where their story started. And they're going to introduce your children to the history of America, starting with Columbus. That's what they're going to do. And then tell them they wasn't here. It was Indians. Nobody in their class has any Indian features or anything like that. And when I say that, I mean that I know the Hindustanis are Moors, Asiatics, we're all Moors. But what I'm saying is the people that they were saying were here when they got here, instead of telling the Moors who are labeled Negro, black, and colored that they were the ones here, they're gonna cheat them of that knowledge and tell them it was Indians. Meanwhile, nobody in their classroom is Indian, even if they're in an integrated school or whatnot. It's mostly Moors, Europeans, Borinquins, Chinese, etc. But it's just crazy, man. It's just crazy because everybody I went to school with who was claiming that they had Indian before we knew anything, they all looked like us. If they even claimed it, you would never think of, the cartoon image that they give or on the movies image. I'm like, damn, but then to find out even Indian was the wrong brand, it's just like, it's just so many layers to the deceit and the trickery, that they implant or transplant those transplanted thoughts to, the Moors youth in North America. That's a major thing, that shouldn't be taken lightly. So, yeah. And I say this, too. I just want to yell here, too, that the children be knowing. They know, even young. Because I can speak for myself. I knew young. And this is why it made so much sense that I knew I wasn't black. Like, it wasn't nothing the teacher had to tell me after we packed down the Crayola colors. It was a wrap. I knew my colors, and I just knew I was not black because I learned my colors, and it meant something to me. That was the funnest part. We used to have when you're young, you got the coloring books, lunchtime, gym class, and then recess. These are the funnest parts of the day. So, once the colors was down packed, it was a wrap. I'm like, you're not going to deceive me. Like, I just know I'm not black. You feel me? Like, it's just not what it is. So, yeah, the youth, that pristine spirit, that pure knowing, that's what has to be safeguarded as well. And that's something that shouldn't be looked at lightly. And with that, I yield the floor. Islam.
All right, we're going to take our next caller, caller 561403. You're live on the air. Please state your appellation in Northwest Memphis.
Islam, peace and love, family. It is I, Osama Bay, in Northwest Mexico.
Excellent.
How was the family this evening?
Oh, fine. And yourself?
That's good. I just wanted to say, actually, I wanted to share an experience with the family today that I had with policy enforcers. I gotten pulled over today. I was picking my motorbikes up from a client's home. She was staying after, and she's an at-home caregiver. And actually, the young lady she was caring for, her father had kind of like given us a warning about how the policy enforcers are around, their particular neighborhood. And the reason being is you don't see a lot of Moors out there. You don't. It's like an island full of Europeans, and he was kind of like giving us a warning as to, but without actually saying it. He kind of just like hinted at it. And today was actually her last day caring for the young lady. And as we were, on our way off the island, just talking about it, how, exhausting it was because, the young lady, she's because she suffers a mental disorder, and sometimes she becomes, combative. And that becomes tiresome on her sometimes, and I can understand that. But we were just talking about that and how glad she said she gets, a break, and how it was her last day and stuff. And the policy enforcer lit us up. I mean, we were just like in mid-conversation. We saw the lights, and I looked at my motorbike, and I thought, oh, Lord, what does he want? So I pulled over, and he told me that First off, he told me this before he said anything else. He said, "Be advised that this interaction I'm having with you is being, video recorded and audio recorded as well." So I'm like, yes, I'm so glad you told me that. But he's like, now, can I have your license, registration and proof of insurance? And I said, well, sir, I'm not driving. I'm actually, traveling upon my ancestral estate, and which I have all right to do without restriction or molestation. And he asked me again for, a license, registration, and proof of insurance. I was like, sir, I'm not operating in a corporate capacity. Driving is, driving is a commercial term. And that's not what I'm doing. And I'm traveling via land conveyance, and this land conveyance is my private property. And I said, as far as registration, I don't register my private property with the corporate state. I mean, because common sense then would mean, my property belongs to the state. And he was like, okay. He was like, I've heard these arguments before, people who, and of course, he's like, you have your own beliefs and this, that, and the other. I was like, well, sir, not a belief. I said it's factual. I said I'm quite sure you know that the Constitution is the supreme law of the land, for which my right to free travel is protected and secured on this, whether it's, the treaties and international law. I said, but you, on the other hand, you're here enforcing the codes for which, for the corporate state for which you work for. So you're essentially operating under color of law, and I do not consent as far as that. But he was like, well, I understand that. He's like, well, if you don't have a driver's license, do you have identification? I said, yes, I do. He said, may I have it? And I was, courteous enough to, give it to him. I gave it to him, and he looked at it. He went back to his truck and left me sitting there for like another 15 minutes. And he was like, well, I can't identify you in our system and this, that, and the other. I said, well, the reason maybe because, as I told you before, I'm not a citizen of any, corporate state. I am indigenous and aboriginal to the land. I'm a more American national. And he was like, well, I can't identify. I have nothing to do with that, so but I can't identify you. So, but at this point, I could kind of tell like he was genuinely ignorant about, what I was saying to him, because he kept asking me what country I was from, and I told him Morocco, and of course he's thinking, the establishment on on the northwestern shores of Akibala, and he's thinking I'm talking about that, but I had to let him know that I'm talking about, the Greater Morocco, the Maghreb, Al-Aqsa. I was like, that's here. And he seemed to he seemed to genuinely not understand that part. But as far as me saying and letting him know that the Constitution, which is the supreme law of the land, he understood that. You know what I mean? He understood where I was coming from that standpoint, but he just couldn't connect with what I was saying, because I do understand there is some policy enforcers. Well, there are some policy enforcers, very few that, that I've seen, but there are a few that actually really genuinely don't know, as far as that, as far as the country. They actually think this is, the country of the United States of America, when in fact it's not a country. It's very few of them that seem to not understand that. But anyway, I couldn't connect with him, with that concept. So I politely asked him for a supervisor, and he said he was on his way anyway. So we sat and waited another 10, 15 minutes until his supervisor, which was a sergeant, pulled up, and basically it was redundant. I explained all these things to him as well. And, of course, I noticed also as we were interacting and having this conversation, there were two other policy enforcers that were standing by within earshot. And I quickly picked up that his response to me concerning, this matter, and then me standing on law and enforcing the Constitution, and me plainly stating and letting him know for the record who I am and what my status is, and what he's there to do. And I know what he's there to do, and that's to enforce color of law, because he told me himself that he's there to enforce the codes. He said that. Mm-hmm. And with him making that distinguishment himself, it's kind of like he put his own footing. He confirmed everything, but he didn't say it blatantly or plainly, because I could tell the other two policy enforcers that were there, they may have been rookies. And as I've learned that these people don't want you, expounding so much on it in front of their corporate wards as well, because some of them are genuine. Right. And if they find this information out, some will actually, have the heart to want to defend it themselves, because now knowledge has set them free, has made them free. And they're not going to want to, violate the people knowingly, So his response to me was, well, here's your identification, sir, and Mr. Bay, and there is going to come a day that you're going to encounter, someone that's going to be more adamant, more forceful. He's like, I just hope you be prepared for that. I mean, it was kind of like he was throwing a threat at me. You know what I mean? It was like he was saying, because you're standing on law, I have to, abide. But he's just like, here's one for the road. You know what I mean? Like dropping a little thread on me. You know what I mean? And he gave me my identification back, and that was that on that. I mean, because I even explained to my Moabite's mother, I said that I had pointed that out to her as well. And I told her as we were sitting there, even as we were sitting there waiting, I said, sweetheart, I always remember this is why this is so important that we stand on the law. We enforce the law. And that we that we stand on our nationality and birthright. Go ahead, Mother. I don't mean to cut you off.
I was going to say, like, what he said to you is like, okay, all right, we're going to hold on. There's a strand out there. What he's actually saying is that we realize it's really the reverse. That once the people, like we said, come to the breakfast table, it'll be over by breakfast. That once everyone enforces, which is what you just did, that position, and if we all did that, this thing would be over. They're the ones who are going to be, done. You know what I'm saying? Because the truth is they've been violating the people's rights for a long time, and their liberties and their right to travel for a long time. They've already been doing that. We just didn't know, So they know it's over. But it's only over if the people will continue to enforce, as you did.
Indeed.
So it's long for that.
Yes, ma'am. And I, there was one other point that was mentioned as well. Oh, yes, he made the threat to impound, if you had, to impound, or basically that's theft of my personal property, which I did say because he threatened to impound. The vehicle. He's like, you could go to jail and this, that, and that. I was like, well, sir, I mean, I've committed no crimes. That's for one, and I do know that, and as well as you as well. I told him, I was like, I know and you know that traffic violations are crimes, and even traffic violations such as speeding and stuff, they're not arrestable offenses. That's for one. And I'm like, if you do, intend on impounding my vehicle or what have you, then you will be held personally responsible, for my property because that's theft. That is theft. And I told him that. I made sure I said that. That is theft. And you can be held liable and sue in equity. I mean, I can sue you for that. And not to mention you committing the crime of theft. So he basically didn't want to talk to me anymore after that. He left and went back and talked to one of the rookies back there.
Because they know they're getting sued.
Exactly. So, I mean, I guess upon him realizing that, hey, this guy here isn't, he's not playing and he's not budging. So he was like, well, he even told my Moabites when he asked her about her identification and this, that, and the other, he told her plainly, Mother, he's like, it's voluntary. You don't have to give me any of this information. You guys haven't broken any laws. He told her that. Why didn't you tell me that? You were just interacting with me. But you said this to the mother, you know what I mean? But it was like, you haven't done anything. You guys haven't broken any laws or what have you. So, I mean, if you decide to give me the information, it is voluntary. And my Mobile let him know that I don't think there is a problem here. So my husband just picked me up from my client's home, and we're on our way back to our private domicile. And he was like, well, what? And there was another question the first policy enforcer asked me too, Mother. He asked me, he was like, well, where do you live? And, I didn't say it arrogantly or belligerently. I was humble. And humbly I said, well, sir, I live in my body. And I was born of my mother's womb. Because his next question was, well, where are you from? And that's when I politely, well, I am
jurisdictional. That's jurisdictional. Wow. That's jurisdictional, because if you say that you are from whatever that corporate municipality, city, township, borough, whatever, then they got jurisdiction.
Indeed.
Okay? It's a jurisdictional question and answer. So now they couldn't gain that because you didn't give it to them.
Indeed. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. But they tried. I mean, they tried their hardest. Saying They said it was unlawful, quote, unlawful to drive in the state of Washington without a driver's license. You know what I mean? It was just. So what did you say?
Well, I'm not driving.
Exactly. That's exactly what I said, Mom. I'm not driving.
Yeah.
I am traveling freely upon my ancestral estate. That was my exact answer to him.
That's right, because you're not driving. Driving is only, by definition and by law, those who are being paid to get behind that wheel and carry either goods or passengers, such as a cab or a truck carrying goods and cargo. That is the definition. And as long as we accepted it, because remember, back to the schools. They came into the schools, get your driver's permit. Well, so everybody did that, and that was their subtle, slick way of bringing the minds into thinking that they needed it, and at the same time, their subtle, slick way of infringing upon your liberty at its strictest sense. Because, as we said, there's a lot of liberties, but at its strictest sense, it means the ability to move through and fro without hindrance, right? So they set that in place already. So now everybody that comes out of those schools, again, why the prophet said we need our own schools, everybody who comes out of that public school institution and whatever like that believes in their mind, mental, I've come to take you out of the mental slavery, that they're driving when they're really not. It's like Clay, right? It's like, wait a minute, I'm not driving by law. Well, who told you you were driving? Who told you were driving? They said you were driving. But we didn't look to see what driving really means. But yet it's a culture and a custom to say that we're driving when we ought to be saying we're traveling to and fro. And this is why all the case laws that protect the liberties of the people are based in traveling laws, their right to travel. And here we're over here, it's like apples and oranges. We're talking from a perspective of driving. So when they say, well, you can't drive, and, there's a couple things to that. First of all, it's a corporation, so they don't have a claim to the land, so that's your jurisdictional, territorial-wise. But so when they say, well, you were driving and you were going 60 miles an hour or 80 miles, and you say, well, no, I wasn't driving at 60 miles. You just admitted you were driving, and that's all they wanted you to do.
Exactly.
Because it's jurisdictional. And so now we go back to we suffer from the lack of knowledge and why we need to study. Because it's the words that we say that give us jurisdiction. First, there was the word. That's right. So it all is tied in. If we would just release ourselves from the mental slavery and really like what you're saying and what I just said about driving is a fact. That's not an opinion. But, to get someone to change, hold on now, to change that words and their words, apparently it's going to be a forced situation or not at all for some,
Indeed. Yes, ma'am.
Because you're going to have to force yourself to change the language. Now, what you demonstrated is that you changed, you had jurisdiction, which means the right words in the first place. Now, if everyone could do that, we would be a force field of enforcement, and it's serious. It's not to play around with. It's not to say something to say, oh yeah, I'm good. I know you felt good about your encounter, but it's take very seriously, because any slip that they can get through, any cracks and crevices, they can get through. They will get through, just like the truth comes through any crack or crevice. Their intent will too. So you got to tighten up the thing, tighten it up, which means you have to have some knowledge, which means you have to study so that we don't suffer, as we have been, from the lack of saying.
Right.
Islam, man. Thanks for your sharing.
Yes, ma'am. Indeed. I just want to say one more thing, and I'll yield the floor, Mom. The thing with also with dealing with these issues, as far as not even just dealing with policy and forces, because even that's surface. But like you said, as we continue to study, I have a class that I hold here at my home every weekend, and I have some brothers and sisters, that have heard me speak and wanted to learn more about the information, because it first started with me, my Moabites, and a neighbor.
And since then, it's kind of, spread. And so we now hold every weekend. And I'm teaching what I've learned thus far concerning nationality, birthright, the principles concerning law and enforcing the law, the Constitution. And I must say that that's what I feel so great about right there. You know what I mean? Because I know that my experiences on a daily basis, whether dealing with policy enforcers or just other type of affairs, I know that these are all experiences and tests for me as I grow, that I make sure with the rest of the family and hopefully, reawaken, because I do listen to the House of Realm. So the reawakening of minds. And I just want to, be a part of that, you know what I mean? Because when we say freedom, like some people do not know what that really means. You know what I mean? When they use that term, like to most, I would say, they think freedom is some type or some form of democracy, as they call it today, when that's a fraud. It's a false sense of freedom. Mm-hmm. It truly is. And I'm so glad I've come and I've grown to learn that, because it took time for me too, and I had to go through my baptism and exorcisms and, you know what I mean, to, even, it was like me warring with myself, you know what I mean? I had been taught the otherwise, Mom, for so long, you know what I mean, since birth I was taught otherwise, so to come across the information for one, and to start studying and see the truth for myself, and I can make it my own. Like, I'm in this place with myself that I'm immovable when it comes to the truth. I'm immovable when it comes to the enforcement of the law. I'm not bending. I'm not breaking for nothing. And I mean that, because I understand how important this truly is, not only just for me, myself, and our generation, our present generations, but the generations after us. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Thank you.
This is how we're gonna crawl out of this hole we're in, because it took them generations to get to where they are today, to live off our birthrights and virtues. That took time, and guess what? They knew it, and they prepared for it.
Would you say then, brother? Would you say then that a lot of people, especially those who are going into the corporate thing and redemption and all that they're only looking at their life as it is right now, trying to see what they can get, and not really at all thinking about the future generations, as you spoke, because if they were, they would be talking allodial and national principles.
Yes, indeed, because if we talking it, then our baby's getting it.
That's right.
Because we know it. We tend to, it's like natural. It's human nature. Like, that which and have learned, you're going to want to teach and give to your offspring. So I feel like, if you're a caring, loving, not just mother or father, just a person, you know what I mean? Just a loving, caring human being. That what you've learned, you're going to want to pass it to somebody somewhere, you know what I mean? And first beginning with your offspring. So we have it. I think we'd be more inclined, to want to give it, because truly I do know that about my people. Like, deep down, we are a giving people, because we're so rich in ancestry and heritage and knowledge. It's so plentiful, because what good is any of it unless you share it anyway? That's information that has to be passed down, passed along, and we have to make an effort, to do that. Every effort to do that. And with that, I yield the floor, Mother.
Thanks, wow.
Peace and love.
Peace and love.
Mm-hmm. All right, our next caller is caller 985-276. You're live on the air. Please state your appellation and Northwest America. Islam, caller 985-276. All right. Caller 347-358. You're live on the air. Please state your appellation at Northwest Mexico.
Islam, and Hotep. Rob Royal Gun L, Northwestern Maximum. Peace and love. Peace and love. I tell you, Miz, we missed you, your presence, but your spirit was felt in the embodiment of the total.
Islam, you got a lot of feedback. It's like something is too loud.
Oh, my paper? You were sharing my paper? Or the tone, the voice, what?
No, I think he's clear now. You're clear now.
All right. I was saying, Miz, that we missed you, but your presence was felt in the spirit. We love you much. Roz, Anna, Cujo, man, we love you guys. Y'all just fired me up tonight. Roz, when you started out with that Consul General, I tell you, it just flipped the switch in me that I was right on the line.
You do have a little bit of feedback. I think it's your mic. It might be rubbing up against your beard or something like that.
Oh, that's probably more of my motion because I was taking some notes.
Yeah, okay.
And I have a paper in my hand, and it's just so much energy flowing here, you know? And so I just wanted to mention that when you're talking about the preamble and that whole concept, and I just like to say that when we realize that the principles that are analogy to whatever's written, there's principles that they're based on, and going back to our forefathers and foremothers mindset, that's a really important thing that when we understand that we have been cultivated and brainwashed into a whole lot of bad habits, I would call it. And Eve, you gave the remedy for habits a couple of weeks ago, I believe, when you mentioned that the other thing that you have to have is a replacement. And I just want to just point that out, is that part of that replacement will have to be our, and when I say our, I mean especially the more advanced and active Moors portion concerning our classes of beginning to actively build some type of infrastructures for whatever's missing and what we need to pull our folk out of that TDC environment that has them employed 20 years or so doing wrong and knowingly doing wrong. They don't have a replacement for lack of any other, more dignified excuse. But just going back to you, Roz, when you were speaking about that Consul General, the real thing that was flashing in my mind, and you're going to always hear me, hopefully, if I get a chance to speak, you're going to always hear me talking about, again, mandate. Mandate is so important that the way it seemed to be part of the whole program, especially when Anna E, you mentioned common law and common sense, and how it's not rocket science. A 5-year-old can tell you and testify to it and know exactly what's taking place. And this is part of this is like an aspect to me of mandate, where on the analogy, when we talk about study, how when you study enough, the things that you study, if you're studying the right things, they become such a part of you that your action will deliver. Your action will, all that is still, again, part of this growing definition or connection to the true essence of mandate. And when Cujo, you mentioned about the flag, and that was a beautiful ruler or measurement for us to know what level of thinking somebody's at. And now, with all due respect to all those who have came, whichever route they come in, because we all have different things to do here, and the thing is that the unity we will meet as long as those principles are involved. And so, you know, we have so many different, you know, I call it part of this original strategy of divide and conquer, where somebody's thinking that they need to make something new. With all due respect to them, all due respect, because, you know, when we talk about how what's missing from the schools, and when we look at how they were made up for by the universe, and we are able to drop our egos, move our egos out the way, and really see what connects where, how it connects. What's the reason for it? Why am I seeing it? Why is it sparking me like that? All that is, again, part of our mindset. And as we go into our mindsets and keep realizing that there's two mindsets. One is the unifying one, and the other is the opposite. It's a fact. One mindset unifies, and the other just, you know, sort of democratizes. That's the best word to use.
When you say higher and lower self, are you talking higher and lower self, right?
Yes, but even more so than, because it's not really who you are that's happening. What's happening is who you thought you are without your self-study. You see? And so then it becomes a little greater than just, you know, it's outside influence. It's not inner self, higher, lower self. But inner self, higher, lower self has this reason for snatching on to those different things, and which one is controlling in you, that's another story. And that's part of the TDC portion that has so many of our folks trapped, because they go into these agencies and doing these things thinking that they can't say who they really are, even if they're conscious, because they might not get what they came for, but they don't understand how much of a compromise that is. And then you have those.
All right.
Nicely put.
All right.
And then you have.
Put.
And then you have those who never even, you know, just never even got the message really, and they just think that that's the way it is. That's their bad habits. That's their bad brainwash.
But guess what it comes down to, brother? Forced to make changes. That's it.
Well, yes, and now this is the thing that we. That's why I say mandate is going to be constantly dripping from my lips, because that's what mandate is really all about. It's that portion of enforcing the law one man at a time, and then realizing that, as the preamble suggests, that Ms. Rahim shared with us, we have places set up that are not following, and they letting you know they're not following, which means they're ready to be replaced. When they say we tore up the Constitution, that means they resigned and they're ready to commit treason. Well, we don't have to worry about what they're doing. What we have to worry about is what we're supposed to do.
We're doing.
See, because right now, everything is on such a globalized stage where they took our name and falsely using it all around the world, and got them thinking that we, the people, agree. Exactly. When we, the people, are really sleeping, silent, and deaf and dumb, and TDC to death. So, you know, we just don't know. We didn't get a handle. And that's where, again, we get back to mandate coming in full force. So I know one thing for sure,
mandate means mandatory. So these principles are mandatory. You know
well,
what I'm saying?
No, mandate is much deeper than that. I am so certain till my spirit just gonna keep milking that one. Like I said, we need a whole discourse on that. Ms. Ryan, you need to help us with this one, because this mandate thing is really something greater than we ever really gave it the leverage that it has.
But let me ask
I don't.
when you're talking about mandate, what exactly are you referring to?
All right. Well, I'm gonna lead to that in a second, but before I get really to there,
no. Well, look, it's 25. It's 25 days.
Yeah, we don't.
And this is going to go down in 3 minutes.
So tell us what the mandate
so
is.
what I'm going to do, I'm going to. I hear you talking about mandate, and as Ross says, mandate is etymologically it is mandatory.
Mandatory.
That's where it's coming from. Chapter 1 of the Quran is man is mine. So if anything is mandatory, and it's not really mandatory, because if we were working on mandatory, everybody would be manifesting exactly what they want, and it would not have anything to do with pain and suffering. So it's free will is what it is. And so where we are is we have got to change our minds. Nobody can come in and change it for us. Each and every one of us, we've got to change our minds. We've got to change how we focus our energy so that we can manifest exactly the peace and love that we want, instead of having outside influences control our minds to the point where we're manifesting pain and suffering, which we say we don't want. If we truly don't want pain and suffering, then it is up to us to voluntarily, using your free will, change your mental thoughts and your mental processes so that you can manifest exactly what you want. That's all that's going on here. Everything always takes you back to chapter 1 of the Quran, man is mine. There's nothing mandatory outside of yourself. Everything is free will and voluntarily within yourself. That's the game. And the game is get control of the people's mind. If you can control the people's mind, then you can have them create any kind of foolery, and that's what we're dealing with today. So, I wanted to say in the brief.
I wanted to say in the brief, what is he talking about? Yeah, what are you talking about when you say mandate? Is that something specific that you're talking about?
Well, actually, I'm talking about on all this levels.
About what? Say that again. Say that again.
Actually, I'm referring to it on all its levels, from protecting your own squares. It's mandatory for you to protect your square, to stand your square.
All right.
Cool. And so, but it's in that manner that it's your square is just a spark to this square that we all make together. So that if we all under the principle, if we all under the flag, if we all, then it spreads out. And so that in order for us to have what we need, as a family, as we ought to, then again, we have to then start creating things to replace what's there. And mindset is being that man is mine. We know we have to start there. And the part of that replacement has